It was 1:10 before I had the list completed and rang off from the secretary. Then I started with the bookstores. Listen, I'm calling from Los Angeles on the Morgenstern book, The Princess Bride, and sorry, busy signal. Not for years, another busy. 1:35. Sandy's swimming, getting a little angry too. She must have thought I was putting her on. I wasn't, but it sure looked that way. Sorry, had a copy in December. No soap, sorry. This is a recorded announcement. The number you have dialed is not in working order. Please hang up and... Nope. Sandy really upset now. Glaring, gathering debris. Who reads Morgenstern today? Sandy, going, gorgeous, gone. Bye, Sandy. Sorry, Sandy. Sorry, we're closing. 1:55 now. 4:55 in New York. Panic in Los Angeles. Busy. No answer. Florin's I got, I think, somewhere in the back. I sat up in my lounge chair. His accent was thick. I need the English translation. You don't get much call from Morgenstern nowadays. I don't know anymore what I got back there. You come in tomorrow, you look around. I'm in California, I said. Meshuggah, he said. It would mean just a great deal to me if you'd look. You gonna hold on while I do it? I'm not gonna pay for this call. Take your time, I said. He took 17 minutes. I just hung on, listening. Every so often, I'd hear a footstep or a crash of books or a grunt. Ugh. Finally, well, I got the Florins like I thought. So close, but not the English, I said. And suddenly, he's yelling at me. What, are you crazy? I break my back and he says, I haven't got it. Yes, I got it. I got it right here. And believe me, it's going to cost a pretty penny. Great, really, no kidding. Now listen, here's what you do. Get yourself a cab and tell him to take the book straight up to Park End. Mr. California, Meshuggah, you listen now. It's coming up a blizzard and I'm going no place and neither are these books without money. $6.50 on the barrel each. You want the English, you gotta take the Florinese, and I close at 6 o'clock. These books don't leave my premises without $13 changing hands. Don't move, I said, hanging up. And who do you call when it's after hours and Christmas is on the horizon? Only your lawyer. Charlie, I said when I got him. Please do me this. Go to 4th Avenue, Abramowitz's, give him $13 for 2 books, taxi up to my house and tell the doorman to take them to my apartment. And yes, I know it's snowing. What do you say? That is such a bizarre request I have to agree to do it. I called Abramowitz yet again. My lawyer is hot on the trail. No checks, Abramowitz said. You're all heart. I hung up and started figuring. More or less 120 minutes long distance at $1.35 per first 3 minutes, plus 13 for the books, plus probably 10 for Charlie's taxi, plus probably 60 for his time, came to $250 maybe, all for my Jason to have a Morgenstern. I leaned back and closed my eyes. $250, not to mention 2 solid hours of torment and anguish, and let's not forget Stanley Steele. They called me at 7:30. I was in my suite. He loves the bike, Helen said. He's practically out of control. Fabo, I said. And your books came. What books? I said. Chevalier was never more casual. The Princess Bride, in various languages, one of them, fortunately, in English. Well, that's nice, I said, still loose. I practically forgot I asked to have them sent. How'd they get here? I called my editorial secretary and had her scrounge up a couple copies. Maybe they have them at Harcourt. Who knows? They did have copies at Harcourt. Can you buy that? I'll get to why in the next pages, probably. Give me the kid. Hi, he said a second later. Listen, Jason, I told him. We thought about giving you a bike for your birthday, but we decided against it. Boy, are you wrong. I got one already. Jason had inherited his mother's total lack of humor. I don't know, maybe he's funny and I'm not. We just don't laugh much together, is all I can say for sure. My son Jason is this incredible looking kid. Paint him yellow, he'll mop up for the school sumo team. A blimp. All the time stuffing his face. I watch my weight and old Helen is only visible full front plus on top of which she's the leading child shrink in Manhattan, and our kid can roll faster than he can walk. He's expressing himself through food, Helen always says. His anxieties. When he feels ready to cope, he'll slim down. Hey Jason, Mom tells me this book arrived today. The princess thing? I'd sure like it if maybe you give it a read while I'm gone. I loved it when I was a kid, and I'm kind of interested in your reaction. Do I have to love it too? He was his mother's son, all right. Jason, no. Just the truth. Exactly what do you think? I miss you, Big Shot, and I'll talk to you on your birthday. Boy, are you wrong. Today is my birthday. We bantered a bit more, long past when there was much to say. Then I did the same with my spouse and hung up, promising a return by the end of 1 week. It took 2. Conferences dragged. Producers got inspirations that had to carefully get shot down. Directors needed their ego soothed. Anyway, I was longer than anticipated in sunny Cal. Finally, though, I was allowed to return to the care and safety of the family. So I quick buzzed to LA airport before anybody's mind changed. I got there early, which I always do when I come back, because I had to load up my pockets with doodads and such for Jason. Every time I got home from a trip, he waddles to me, hollering, Let me see the pockets." And they go through all my pockets, taking out his graft, and once the loot is total, he gives me a nice hug. Isn't it awful what we do in this world to feel wanted? Let me see the pockets, Jason shouted, moving to me across the foyer. It was a supper-time Thursday, and while he went through his ritual, Helen emerged from the library and kissed my cheek, going, "What a dashing-looking fellow I have," which is also ritual, and, leading with gifts, Jason kind of hugged me and waddled off to his room. "Angelica's just getting dinner on," Helen said. You couldn't have timed it better. Angelica? Helen put her finger to her lips and whispered, "It's her 3rd day on, but I think she may be a treasure." I whispered back, "What was wrong with the treasure we had when I left? She only been with us a week then." "She proved a disappointment," Helen said. That was all. Helen is this brilliant lady, junior Phi bet in college, every academic honor conceivable, really, and intellect of startling breadth and accomplishments, only she can't keep a maid. First, I guess she feels guilty having anybody, since most of the anybody's available nowadays are black or Spanish, and Helen is ultra super liberal. Second, she's so efficient, she scares them. She can do everything better than they can, and she knows it, and she knows they know it. Third, when she's got them panicked, she tried to explain, being an analyst, why they shouldn't be frightened, and after a good solid half-hour ego search with Helen, they're really frightened. Anyway, we have had an average of 4 treasures a year for the last few years. We've been running in bad luck, but it'll change, I said, just as reassuringly as I knew how. I used to haggle her about the health problem, but I learned that was not necessarily wise. Dinner was ready a little later, and with an arm around my wife and around my son, I advanced toward the dining room. I felt at that moment safe, secure, all the nice things. Supper was on that table. Creamed spinach, mashed potatoes, gravy, and pot roast. Terrific, except I don't like pot roast since I'm a rare meat man. but cream spinach I have a leg for. So all in all, a more than edible spread was set across the tablecloth. We sat. Helen served the meat. The rest we passed. My pot roast slice was not terribly moist, but the gravy could compensate. Helen rang. Angelica appeared. Maybe 20 or 18, swarthy, slow-moving. Angelica, Helen began, this is Mr. Goldman. I smiled and said hi and waved a fork. She nodded back. Angelica, this is not meant to be construed as criticism, since what happened is all my fault. But in the future, we must both try very hard to remember that Mr. Goldman likes his roast beef rare. This was roast beef? I said. Helen shot me a look. Now, Angelica, there is no problem, and I should have told you more than once about Mr. Goldman's preferences, but next time we have bone rib roast, let's all do our best to make the middle pink, shall we? Angelica backed into the kitchen, another treasure down the tubes. Remember now, we all three started this meal happy. 2 of us are left in that state, Helen clearly being distraught. Jason was piling the mashed potatoes on his plate with a practiced and steady motion. I smiled at my kid. Hey, I tried. Let's go a little easy, huh, fella? He splattered another fat spoonful onto his plate. Jason, they're just loaded, I said then. I'm really hungry, Dad, he said, not looking at me. Fill up with the meat, Ben, why don't you? I said. Eat all the meat you want. I won't say a word. I'm not eating nothing, Jason said, and he shoved his plate away and folded his arms and stared off into space. If I were a furniture salesperson, Helen said to me, or perhaps a teller in the bank, I could understand, but how can you have spent all these years married to a psychiatrist and talk like that? You're out of the dark ages, Willie. Helen, the boy's overweight. All I suggest was he might leave a few potatoes for the rest of the world and stuff on this lovely prime pot roast your treasure has whipped up for my triumphant return. Willie, I don't want to shock you, but Jason happens to have not only a very fine mind, but also exceptionally keen eyesight. When he looks at himself in the mirror, I assure you he knows he is not slender. That is because he does not choose at this stage to be slender. He's not that far from dating, Helen. What then? Jason is 10, darling, and not interested at this stage in girls. At this stage, he is interested in rocketry. What difference does a slight change of overweight make to a rocket lover? When he chooses to be slender, I assure you, he has both the intelligence and the willpower to become slender. Until that time, please, in my presence, do not frustrate the child. Sandy Sterling in her bikini was dancing behind my eyes. I'm not eating, and that's it, Jason said then. Sweet child, Helen said to the kid. In that tone she reserves on this earth for only such moments, be logical. If you do not eat your potatoes, you will be upset, and I will be upset. Your father clearly is already upset. If you do eat your potatoes, I shall be pleased. You will be pleased. Your tummy will be pleased. We can do nothing about your father. You have it in your power to upset all or one, about whom, as I have already said, we can do nothing. Therefore, the conclusion should be clear. But I have faith in your ability to reach it yourself. Do what you will, Jason. He began to stuff it in. You're making a poof out of that kid, I said, only not loud enough for anybody but me and Sandy to hear. Then I took a deep, deep breath because whenever I come home, there's always trouble, which is because, Helen says, I bring tension with me. I always need inhuman proof that I've been missed, that I'm still needed, loved, etc. All I know is I hate being away, but coming home is the worst. There's never really much chance to go into, well, what's new since I'm gone? Chit-chat. Seemed that Helen and I talk every night anyway. I bet you're a whiz on that bike, I said, Ben. Maybe we'll go for a ride this weekend. Jason looked up from his potatoes. I really loved the book, Dad. It was great. I was surprised that he said it because, naturally, I was just starting to work my way into that subject matter. But Ben, as Helen's always saying, Jason ain't no dummy. Well, I'm glad, I said, and I was ever. Jason nodded. Maybe it's even the best I read in all my life. I nibbled away at my spinach. What was your favorite part? Chapter 1, The Bride, Jason said. That really surprised me. Not that Chapter 1 stinks or anything, but there's not that much that goes on compared with the incredible stuff later. Buttercup grows up mostly is all. How about the climb up the cliffs of insanity, I said, Ben. That's in Chapter 5. Oh, great, Jason said. And that description of Prince Humperdinck's Zoo of Death, that's in the second chapter. Even greater, Jason said. What knocked me out about it, I said, was that it's this very short little passage on the Zoo of Death, but yet somehow you just knew it's going to figure in later. Did you get that same feeling? Uh-huh, Jason nodded. Great. By then, I knew he hadn't read it. He tried to read it, Helen cut in. He did read the first chapter. Chapter 2 was impossible for him, so when he made a sufficient and reasonable attempt, I told him to stop. Different people have different tastes. I told him you'd understand, Willie. Of course I understood. I felt just so deserted, though. I didn't like it, Dad. I wanted to. I smiled at him. How could he not like it? Passion, duels, miracles, giants, true love. You're not eating the spinach either, Helen said. I got up. Time changed. I'm not hungry. She didn't say anything until she heard me open the front door. Where are you going? She called Ben. If I'd known, I would have answered. I wandered through December. No top coat. I wasn't aware of being cold, though. All I knew was I was 40 years old. And I didn't mean to be here when I was 40, locked with this genius shrink wife and this balloon son. It must have been 9 o'clock when I was sitting in the middle of Central Park alone. No one near me, no other bench occupied. That was when I heard the rustling of the bushes. It stopped. Then again, very soft, nearer. I whirled, screaming, "Don't you bug me!" And whatever it was, friend, foe, imagination, fled. I could hear the running, and I realized something. Right then, at that moment, I was dangerous. Then it got cold. I went home. Helen was going over some notes in bed. Ordinarily, she would come out with something about me being a bit elderly for acts of juvenile behavior, but there must have been danger clinging to me still. I could see it in her smart eyes. He did try, she said faintly. Finally, I never thought he didn't, I answered. Where's the book? The library, I think. I turned, started out. Can I get you anything? I said no, but I went to the library, closed myself in, hunted out The Princess Bride. It was in pretty good shape, I realized as I checked the binding, which is when I saw it was published by my publishing house, Harcourt Brace Jovanovich. This was before that. There weren't even Harcourt Brace and World yet. Just plain old Harcourt Brace, period. I flicked to the title page, which was funny, since I'd never done that before. It was always my father who'd done the handling. I had to laugh when I saw the real title, because right there it said, The Princess Bride, S. Morgenstern's classic tale of true love and high adventure. You had to admit a guy who called his own new book a classic before it was published and anyone else had a chance to read it. Maybe he figured if he didn't do it, nobody would, or maybe he was just trying to give the reviewers a helping hand. I don't know. I skimmed the first chapter, and it was pretty much exactly as I remembered. But I turned to the second chapter, the one about Prince Humperdinck, and the little kind of tantalizing description of the Zoo of Death. And that's when I began to realize the problem. Not that the description wasn't there, it was, and again, pretty much as I remember it. But before you got to it, there were maybe 60 pages of text dealing with Prince Humperdinck's ancestry and how his family got control of Florin and this wedding and that child begetting this one over here who then married somebody else. And then I skipped to the third chapter, the courtship, and that was all about the history of Guilder and how that country was reached its place in the world. The more I flipped on, the more I knew. Morgenstern wasn't writing any children's book. He was writing a kind of satiric history in his country and the decline of the monarchy in Western civilization. But my father only read me the action stuff, the good parts. He never bothered with the serious side at all. About 2 a.m, I called Hiram in Martha's Vineyard. Hiram Hayden's been my editor for a dozen years, ever since Soldier of the Rain. And we've been through a lot together, but never any phone calls at 2 a.m. To this day, I know he doesn't understand why I couldn't wait till maybe breakfast. You sure you're all right, Bill? He kept saying. Hey, Hiram, I began about after 6 rings. Listen, you guys published a book just after World War I. Do you think it might be a good idea for me to abridge it and we'll republish it now? You sure you're all right, Bill? Fine, absolutely. And see, I just used the good parts. I kind of bridge where they were skipped to the narrative and leave the good parts alone. What do you think? Bill, it's 2 a.m. up here. Are you still in California? I acted like I was all shocked and surprised, so he wouldn't think I was a nut. I'm sorry, Hiram. My God, what an idiot. It's only 11 o'clock in Beverly Hills. Do you think you could ask Mr. Jovanovich, though? You mean now? Tomorrow or the next day, no big deal. I'll ask him anything, only I'm not quite sure I'm getting an accurate rating on exactly what you want. You sure you're all right, Bill? I'll be in New York tomorrow. Call you then about the specifics, okay? Could you make it a little early in the business day, Bill? I laughed, and we hung up. I laughed and we hung up, and I called Zig in California. Ivart Ziegler had been my movie agent for maybe 8 years. He did the Bush Cassidy deal for me, and I woke him up too. Hey, Zig, could you get me a postponement on the Stepford Wives? There's this other thing that's come up. You're contracted to start now. How long a postponement? I can't say for sure. I've never done an abridgment before. Just tell me what you think they do. I think if it's a long postponement, they threatened to sue and you'd end up losing the job. It came out pretty much as he said. They threatened to sue and I almost lost the job and some money and didn't make any friends in the industry, as those of us in showbiz call movies. But the abridgment got done and you hold it in your hands. The good parts version. Why did I go through all of that? Helen pressured me greatly to think about an answer. She felt it was important, not that she knew necessarily, but that I know. Because you acted crackers, Willie boy, she said. You had me truly scared. So why? I never was worth beans at self-scrutiny. Everything I write is impulse. This feels right, that sounds wrong, like that. I can't analyze. Not my own actions anyway. I know I don't expect this to change anybody else's life the way it altered mine. But take the title words, True Love and High Adventure. I believed in that once. I thought my life was going to follow that path. Prayed that it would. Obviously it didn't, but I don't think there's high adventure left anymore. Nobody takes out a sword nowadays and cries, Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And true love, you can forget about too. I don't know if I love anything truly anymore beyond the porterhouse at Peter Luger's and the cheese enchilada at El Parador's. Sorry about that, Helen. Anyway, here's the good parts version. S. Morgenstern wrote it, and my father read it to me, and now I give it to you. What you do with it will be of more than passing interest to us all. New York City, December 1972.